Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
Courtney, how are you this fine evening?
It's Monday,
It
and
sure is.
it is indeed a Monday.
Mhm.
So I've made it through. I did all the things, so that's good. I have some hot
Good.
tea, so I'm feeling much better in general about
Yeah,
life. Um, but I'm gonna talk about theater, so here we are.
good.
Um, how I was supposed to see a beautiful noise last Wednesday. Yeah. Turns out
Yeah.
they only do a matinee. We found that out
Oh,
when we got to the show that they only do a matinee. Um,
good.
But it's fine because instead, and probably for the best, we went and saw Sweeney Todd. And it was so good. I've never seen it on stage. I've only seen the movie.
Okay, but was Sutton terrible?
I didn't see any of the big casts.
Oh, okay.
But
Because
I heard that she's been doing really good on stage. She was just in Once Upon a Mattress, and Noelle
no, no,
said she
no.
killed it.
Yes, she was fantastic on Once Upon a Mattress.
Yeah.
I have seen some bootlegs, heard some things. Um,
Mm.
there have been choices that were made that should not have been made.
So I
Also,
think
also Aaron
Jenna
Tvight's a
DeWall,
tenor.
yeah,
So
also
I was
consider.
really
I did not see him
excited.
either.
Yeah, I was really excited about the new production when they first announced it, and they were like replacement cast, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw Jenna DeWall, who I think that's who played Mrs. Lovett. Ruthie Ann Miles played the beggar woman. And
Oh, Ruthie Ann Miles, 10 out of 10.
yeah. And then I can't remember the guy's name who played um the barber, but he did really good. He was definitely a base. I wanted him to feel a little more mean at the beginning. He was a little too jovial for me. Not that he was jovial, but like just a little too jovial for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was really good. It was fun, and honestly, it was probably better than going to see Beautiful Noise with all the 90-year-olds in Sweet Caroline. But, you know, so that's my theater update. I'm supposed to go see a show tomorrow, but we're also supposed to
Oh,
have a big
was it
winter
was it
storm.
was it Nicholas Christopher? Was the
Hmm.
that who
I
was
don't think so.
your
I think it was somebody
Sweeney?
Jackson or James. I think there was a J in it. I
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at
think
the
he was the
cast.
standby, maybe.
Well, that Nicholas Christopher is the standby.
I think he was the standby of the understudy who was like playing because like they've been
Mm,
doing the run for like what 2 3 weeks in between
yeah.
Annalie Ashford and Sutton Foster shows.
Right, right,
I don't
right.
even know where my bag is to tell you, but
That is totally fine. Okay. I was
it could
just
have been. Who
curious.
knows? Um, but yeah,
Curious.
so we might have a snow storm
Yeah,
tomorrow. I'm
heard
hoping
that.
that we don't have to go to work, but I'm also supposed to see a show tomorrow, so like, that'd be cool too to see the show. Um, but yeah, so how are you?
I would also like to talk about a show, but not
Ooh, I love it.
a play or anything. I did see a show slash work a show this weekend, but it was a Billy Joel Elton John piano tribute group. Like they just like did impressions of
Was
Billy
that
Joel and Elton
great or
John.
terrible?
It was no, they were actually phenomenal. Like I'm
Oh,
not a
I'm so
big
jealous
I
then.
know I'm not a big like impression thing, especially because Billy Joel is
Hmm.
so hard to like pull off, but this guy was incredible and he was very nice. So like that was fine. But the show that I want to talk about is the show that I've been waiting to see for months. And that
Sorry, absolutely was Nicholas Christopher.
okay. Yeah,
Jamie
he's
Jackson played the judge.
mm.
Anyways, go
The
ahead.
show I've been waiting to see for months, and that was the Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh my God. Sure.
I would like to formally apologize to my fiance for having had to sit on the couch with me during that show yesterday. Um, because Usher walked out and started dancing. And I immediately started like grasping my face like a teenager, freaking out. And then they showed Alicia Keys, and I smacked Dan and said, "Oh my God, if they don't sing my boo, I'm gonna die."
I
Then they
love
started,
Alicia Keys.
then they sang my boo, and I was in tears.
Hmm.
Then the guy was like, 20 years of Confessions. And I was like, how am I so old that it's been 20 years of Confessions? But then they sang the big three from Confessions, and I sang every single word of every single song
Hmm.
while crying. And then he goes off stage, the roller skates come on, everybody's freaking out. Shot starts playing. I punched Dan and said, "Oh my God, Lil Jon's there too." At this point, I am verklempt. I am not a person. And then Luda walks on stage, and I was
Ugh,
full on, like,
yeah.
did not make sense as a
Our
human
whole house
anymore.
yelled
I
when
was,
Luda came out.
I was, oh.
I think
And
Brian may
for
have punched Casey when Lil Jon came out because he made a scene beside me. But when Luda came out, everyone in the house literally screamed.
I lost my mind. I was unconsolable. Dan then just laughed when it was over, and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "I just, it's so funny seeing you like that, like when you just like get so excited about something." And I was like, I don't think you'll understand." I go, like, it's 20 years of Confessions, which means that the summer of Confessions I was 11. Like that's when you start listening
That's
to music. Like, you know what
that's
I mean?
ludicrous.
Yeah. No. So, anyone who says the Super Bowl halftime show was bad is a liar, and they don't understand because
This is
Usher,
like one of the best ones in a
first of all,
while.
he danced that entire fucking like night,
Hmm.
and the vocals might not have been 100% like quality because he was actually singing,
Hmm.
and like it was just,
So good.
it
And
was great.
like last year's was incredible, but the few years before that, they always do these big productions. And it's like they put them in these boxes or do these things. And it's like, and I'm like, I just want to hear you sing and dance. That's what halftime is
Well, and
about,
the thing
singing
is,
and dancing.
Usher's whole thing has always been that he could dance. So like
Hmm.
if they didn't give him the time and space to do epic dance, it wouldn't have been an Usher show.
Right.
I could have done without the roller skates, I'm not gonna lie. Like
I mean,
but it was
look kitschy. Look
yeah.
kitschy. It's
But
fine.
I also appreciated the outfit change because it gave him a chance to get some fucking water. And when he walked off stage in the white outfit, I was like, get that man some water. Um,
Help him breathe.
but yeah,
Bless his heart.
it was amazing. The
Mhm.
I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl because it was garbage. Um, but and because I am fully on board with the NFL's actually just basically the WWE with football, and it's all scripted and it's a plot, and Taylor Swift makes them too much money for the Chiefs to lose. Like I'm 100% part of that conspiracy theory bandwagon at this point. But my only story is yesterday my mom was on the phone with Brianna and Zara, and they asked Zara who was going to win the game tonight. And she was like, the 49ers or the Chiefs. And Zara just goes, no, I picked the Ravens. And we were like, yeah. They were like, yeah, but you picked the Ravens to win last week, but then they didn't. Like the Chiefs beat them. So like, who do you think should win the game tonight? Like the Chiefs or the 49ers? She goes, let's just bring the Ravens back and let them have another chance.
Bless her heart.
And I was like, same, Zara. I feel the same. So,
That's sweet baby. Sweet baby.
that
Yeah.
should have been the outcome
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna be in Kansas City next week. Can you imagine? I was there last year too, and it's just all red. Like the water is red. It's a
gross.
situation.
It's a situation. Yeah. Um, you know what else is a situation? Our
Our
mental health.
well-being.
Yeah. Um, so why don't you impart some words of wisdom to help us with that situation?
At first, I want to tell you this before I give you our mental well-being.
Yeah.
I was literally telling Rachel about all of my day and coming to it, and her only like consolation was, well, at least you get to hang out with MK tonight. I was like, that is you are my piece of well-being for
Yes.
life. So thank you. You're my physical well-being. But I'll give you some words for well-being as well.
Perfect.
It's not uplifting. If you want to see true grit, watch someone break. Then watch as the pieces settle, as hands begin moving, as a new person is made. Ellie Bowman.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, that's where I'm at. Pieces will settle eventually. They have to, I think.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't remember, we are watching the one episode of Stargate SG-1 that is weirdly not on Amazon for we're not 100% sure what reason.
No one knows.
I have yet to find anything online that explains it to me in a way that makes sense. So I'm just going to use my own reasons, which are not valid. But that's fine.
Mhm.
So this episode in question is Stargate SG-1, Season 5, Episode 8, The Tomb. It is rated 7.5 stars, and it came out on August 17th, 2001. The book and the movie are the same as last week, but the number one song is unfortunately no longer Usher.
But it's
Which is,
time. This is the time.
but it's because the number one song on this day was Fallen by Alicia Keys.
Okay, well, okay.
Right?
All right. That's the only one you could substitute.
Right. I was
Did I
like,
tell you my first ever music publishers meeting that I went to in the city she spoke at? Changed my life. It was when she was really like pushing she is the music. It's still a thing, but like when
yeah,
she was really pushing it.
yeah,
I love.
love it. But also that's pretty much the end of me talking about October or August 17th because I literally could not come up with any news. I got really excited. I thought I had news, and then I realized that I had typed in August 27th instead of August 17th, and so all of my news was not correct. And so then I changed it and typed in August 17th, and turns out there's fuck all that happened that day. So I got absolutely nothing for you in that front. But
That's
the
exciting.
episode, I know, the episode was directed by Peter DeLuise, written by Joseph Molisi and Paul Mully, and edited by Rick Martin. So again, nothing really to talk about. The cast member that we're going to talk about today is Earl Postko, who plays Colonel Zukov.
Zuka. I keep calling him Kristoff. That is not his name.
No. Earl Postko is known for Battlefield Earth, The Colony, and Land of the Dead. There is very little that I could find about him online at all. But he was in 2 episodes of Hemlock Grove. So
Which ones? Who did he play?
he played he was in season 3, which was not a good season.
Sure.
And he was in the first episode and like the 4th episode or something. I think he was like one of the Russian people who was like hunting like part of the cult situation. That's the only thing I can
Sure.
think because when I looked up the character's name, nothing comes up. And it was a very Russian name. So I think he was one of the Russian members of the cult, and that is why there's not really anything out there. But so he still does some stuff. He does little bit pieces. He is Ukrainian. But unfortunately,
Oh, right. You mentioned that last week. Yeah.
unfortunately, most of the time in America, we can't tell the difference. So, and also that to be fair, in Ukraine, there is a split, and Ukrainian is a language, but also a lot of people in Ukraine do speak Russian.
Right.
And that's actually been an issue with some of the Ukrainian immigrants, like refugees who are coming here because of the war, like in ESL classes, like they want to learn English because they don't want to speak Russian anymore because they want to have nothing to do with Russia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't really have a lot there. I do interestingly have a lot of trivia. Um,
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I didn't
but
even look at trivia for my episode.
so we will like I have like this much is all trivia.
I am so stoked.
So and there's a
That
couple
is
things.
the highest note of my whole day.
I also did write like 10 pages of notes for this episode.
Welcome
Um,
to our 7 hour long episode of
yeah,
Stargate SG-1.
it's
It's
gonna be
okay,
great.
we're covering it because you can't see it on Amazon.
Yeah, so we're gonna go into very specific details. Also, happy we've had more than 300 episodes. I was supposed to say that last Sunday and I
Yay.
forgot. So we start on a planet with great pyramids, or great giant. Giant is the word I was looking for. Giant pyramids. And in there go inside this pyramid, and Teal'c doesn't recognize the symbols on the wall that Daniel's trying to translate because they are Babylonian. Um, Jack clearly does not like being on this planet. One can assume that it is hot because it is a desert and Jack is cranky. Um, but so he and
Rude.
Daniel are fighting a little bit, and Daniel is getting very pedantic about the fact that these are not pyramids, they are ziggurats, which is completely unnecessary, but will come up at least 8 more times.
I Yes, it comes up quite a bit because I forgot that he said this in the very beginning and then he just says it randomly later. I was like, cigarettes? What? What are we
Yeah.
talking about, Daniel?
Yeah, that I think is when I realized I didn't have my subtitles on and I needed them on.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Yeah, mine live
um,
on, or I can't hear the TV.
correct. Interestingly, in the subtitles, most of the time that they're speaking Russian, the subtitles do tell you what they're saying in English. A
Mm-hmm.
couple times they're wrong. Um, but at one point it
Great.
just says speaking Russian, and I had paused it and then gone back and like played that scene again because I was looking for something specific, but Dan thought it was because I was trying to translate the Russian in my head. I was like, I'm not that good at Russian, honey. I was like, I can say like hello and thank you and like read the
Right.
alphabet. I can't understand a whole military conversation.
No, that's where the line is drawn. That's where the line is drawn.
Yeah. Um, I go, thank you for the confidence. Not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But so Daniel needs to get into the cigarette, and they Jack's like, "Can you please open the door?" And he's like, "No." Because I have to go back because I can't really translate this Babylonian on my own without some books, seeing as it's a dead language. And I just wanted to like give like a little nice shout out to the fact that sometimes Daniel actually says things that make sense for linguists to say. But
Yeah,
also, I
every now and
met
then.
I met a woman today. She is one of my professors' mothers. So, like, my professor does an adult ESL class, and I go and I work with her to work with adults who are learning English. And her mom was also there working today. And her mom is a speech pathologist and a teacher, but she changed her major to speech pathology when she was in school studying to be both a linguist and an archaeologist and realized nobody had a job for her doing that in the
Right.
90s. So like this woman is Daniel Jackson.
In the 90s, call up Stargate Command.
Right.
They got a job. Daniel for sure probably needs some help with this.
Yeah, and she speaks more as many or more languages than I do, and I'm obsessed with her, and she is a linguist and an archaeologist, and I was like I almost
Mm.
started talking to her about Daniel Jackson and then felt like that was weird.
Did you
Um
why did you not? That was the wrong move. Wrong move, MK.
it just didn't feel like it would be something she would be interested in. She
You
didn't
never
strike me as a
know.
sci-fi person.
They hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of something that transformed and could not. So I have no idea.
Um, but while he's trying to figure out how to translate this dead language, he was like, honestly, I don't think anyone's even stood in this spot in front of this like gate for at least 3,000 years. And Sam goes, yeah, I'm not so sure about that because she has found on the ground an empty Russian pack of cigarettes. And then we
Which is
get the
why I thought he was
credits.
talking about cigarettes.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, no. I would like to say that at least the Russian on the cigarette pack was actually Russian. Um, because Russia doesn't use the same alphabet that we do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, creating military patches using the Roman alphabet looks weird when it's not supposed to be. So we'll talk about that. But um, after the credits, which also, okay, because this episode was on Amazon, I watched it on Blu-ray,
Mm.
which when I usually watch it at my house, I watch it on the original, like 2002 DVD box set, right? Doug has the collector's edition every single season of all three
Fancy.
shows,
I
fancy
see.
Blu-ray. And I was like, oh my God, the picture on this Blu-ray is insane until it got to the credits because it has the original Raw statue credits and they were fuzzy as all shit because apparently the 1994 film footage could not be HD'd.
Bless it.
Yeah, it was rough. Um,
Also, they're behind the times because that is not the credits for season 5.
Originally
It's
it
not the.
was.
Oh, originally it was.
It wasn't until after season 5 that the new credits actually happened when they were airing. And that has to do with the fact that post season 5 they were no longer airing on Showtime, which we will talk about when we do our season 5 wrap up.
Oh my gosh, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Showtime. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but we're back on the base and there is a briefing about this discovery and they are talking about the Russian Stargate team. And there's no log of them ever going to that planet. But they have log of a soldier who was working for some secret Russian intelligence who went AWOL with his team. And they may have gone off world and never come back because then the Russian gate was destroyed. Um, and he was like, so they might still be out there. And they're like, I don't know if it would even be possible for the team to be alive out there because that planet is 135 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade.
Yep,
So
that's pretty warm, pretty toasty.
yeah, it's gross. So Hammond's like, well, you're gonna go find out, but I've allowed it to happen with a joint mission with a Russian military team to try to find their men. And Jack, not a fan of
Not a
this
fan.
plan, loses his mind. And Hammond's basically like Russia has wanted in for a while, and ever since they've had information, they want to partner with us, they want to get in, they want to work with us, and we really have not been able to allow them. We've been trying to push them out, but like in this case, they A have information that we need, and B it is their men. So like we kind of need to. Also, I think I don't remember. I was 9, but I think early 2000s we were like kind of trying to figure out how to fix things with Russia. I know it didn't last, obviously, but like that, mm,
You know,
yeah.
who knows?
Um, so so far the Russians have cooperated with everything that they've asked, and they actually sent Daniel a full report from a Russian archaeologist named Dr. Britsky, who was on this mission with the secret spy people. And we find out that the ziggurat is a monument to the Babylonian god Marduk. And Sorry, I just like suddenly couldn't talk.
That's all right.
The Russian team arrives and introductions are made. And Colonel Zhukov tells the team that Dr. Markov has told him all about them. Dr. Markov obviously is the Russian who we worked with in the Watergate episode, the woman. And so,
Well, that's why she looked familiar.
well, no, she is not in the episode. She's just mentioned.
Hmm. Who am I thinking of? Who was the woman that we worked with? Maybe it was a different episode. I don't even know. There was one we
Um,
worked with somewhere.
yeah, no,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
we
she was
worked
an
with
alien.
maybe. No, Dr. Markov was the one who was from Star Trek who ran the Russian base. Um, in the episode who went into the water with them.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? Yeah. So she was not in this episode. She was just mentioned just to like connect the two episodes. Um,
Oh, I see. I see.
yeah. Um, but then we find out about Dr. Britsky's report, and it turns out that he did a dig in southern Iraq and he found a tablet with some Babylonian cuneiform, but he couldn't translate all of it because it also included a bunch of symbols that were not technically Babylonian cuneiform. Turns out they were a gate address. Um, Someone in Russia must have recognized something, though, because the results were never published and they were made classified, so no one outside of the Russia's government had ever seen this report. Um, which Jack gets pissy about because he's like, well, they didn't have a Stargate until 2 years ago, so how would they have even known any of this? And Sam and Daniel are like, you're forgetting that they would have still been able to see the symbols because they've had a DHD since World War II. Because they stole it from the Nazis,
Right. For the
which,
best.
interestingly, is one of the only things that the Stargate Origins movie actually answers for us is the Nazis getting a hold of the equipment.
That's true.
Yeah. Um,
Good old
so
Catherine.
yes. The tablet also referenced the Eye of Tiamat, which was supposedly a magic jewel that like gave the beholder some kind of super alien power or whatever. So that's why Russia sent the secret ops team instead of like a regular team because they were trying to like steal stuff. Um,
Did
but
we
so
learn
they
more
go,
about this eye?
no.
I don't think
Um,
so.
Jack, so both teams are getting ready to go out, and then Jack tries to pull rank and like say that he has chain of command for this mission and he's in charge and it's a US mission and blah blah blah. And Zukov is like, we're both colonels here. Like we are of equal rank and it is a joint mission. So I don't know about that. Don't worry, things don't get better between the two of them. um, so then after hours of sitting there, Daniel finally gets the door open by reading the entire story. Because of course that's the way that puzzle worked.
We have
Um,
plenty of time for all of that.
right. And the team inside, they split up, but they trade members for safety. So Teal'c goes with the Russian team and uh, what's his name? Machenko. Yeah, Machenko goes with the American team. Um, they find a soldier inside, but all that's left is a skeleton. And while they're discussing how it would be impossible for a skeleton to decompose that badly in 10 months, Sam is like, yeah, that's not decomposed. The entire skeleton is covered in teeth marks. Something ate all of the flesh off of the bones.
Which is disturbing.
Fucking terrifying. Um, then Teal'c and the Russian team on the other side of the pyramid find a sarcophagus. Um, Teal'c radios O'Neill and tells them about it, and O'Neill tells them to wait to investigate till both teams are there, and of course they don't. And they step on the platform and everything starts shaking. They all try to escape, but Marchenko shoves himself in between the door trying to escape and gets crushed by it and dies. And this was about the moment where I was like, maybe this episode is just too awful to be on Amazon. Because
That's fair. A lot of
we've
death.
a lot of death and a lot of gruesome death.
But also, I have to say, so I had that thought too. But also, like, we're talking about this season being super dark, and I don't
Yeah,
know if I'm just jaded, but I'm like, I get that this is darker than most. I feel like I
yeah.
don't feel like it was that dark still. I feel like we're still just kind of like
No,
hanging out in
I don't.
sci-fi territory.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there was some very dark comments, some dark undertones, obviously like the fact that the deaths themselves were gruesome and other stuff, but like the idea of what the Russian military is like and the thought processes and some of the things that were said are actually, I think, the
Yeah,
darkest part of it. And I think that's actually why it's not allowed to be on there because of the way it portrays the Russian military.
yeah, that's fair.
Um, um, So then they're all fighting about what to do next because they're now trapped inside this cigarette, and they decide that they need to open the sarcophagus. And they do, and Marduk is inside, but he is very dead. And whatever killed the soldier also killed Marduk. Unfortunately, there are no signs of it anywhere.
So is Marduk just like a gold soldier? Because it sounded like he was like this really big, important like Ra, but he's not a god.
No,
So
he is.
like,
He's a
is
Babylonian
he?
god. So it would be like Apophis, but so like you know how it's really just a human
Oh,
body. It would be the
right,
same
right,
as
right.
any of the
Yeah,
other, yeah. Um,
gotcha. I couldn't figure it because it sounded like he was like this really big, important guy, but then when I don't know any of the Babylonian gods, I'm only in my early stages of mythology right now. So
yeah.
stay tuned. And also, I just couldn't figure out like what exactly his level was. So
Yeah,
Apophis level.
yeah.
Got it.
Well, apparently when you Google Marduk, there's a band that comes up first. Didn't
I
want
think of
that.
Marmaduke.
Um, so Marduk is the god of creation in Babylon. Like he's the story,
Oh,
like
that's a
he
big
is the god of
guy.
creation. So he's a pretty big one. He's the god of
Yeah.
creation
Everywhere.
for yeah.
Yeah.
So actually it's probably more like Ra than Apophis, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Bigger than
Yeah.
Apophis.
Yeah. So kind of a big deal. Um, Also kind of a dick. So that's interesting.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but which we're about to find out. As they're fighting and they open this thing and we find all this stuff out, we also see a quick flash to a weird like spiderweb cocoon with some pincers coming out, which was a great shot, but also fucking terrifying. Um,
That is why I think it was not on Amazon because that was so scary. And I arachnophobia, probably. I don't know if it was an arachnid. I couldn't tell how many legs there were, but terrifying
yeah,
nonetheless.
no, it was pretty bad. Um, Honestly, even when we saw the carcass, still couldn't tell you how many legs there were. I
Yeah. I'm gonna guess eight. I'm gonna guess it's arachnid-esque,
yeah, yeah.
but like truly could not tell.
Um, yeah. So while they're after we see this little pincer thing, we also as people start to get worried because Sam's like, here's a thing. We have food. Fine. Great. We only have enough water for 5 days.
Yeah,
And
that's not as great.
Jack was like, it's fine, we won't be here 5 days. Very confident for someone with no plan. Um,
And like you know that everyone else, well, I guess you don't know everyone yet, but like you know people have died, including quote unquote gods have died here. And you're like,
Yeah.
totally fine. Be out in 5 days. No problem.
Um,
Although they
yeah.
did try to liken it to the resurrection for like a hot second. They said something about like, did he rest for 3 days or something when they're trying to get into the cigarette
Oh yeah.
and they did their little Harry Potter magic.
Yeah. Um, then they consider like using explosives to like blow their way out, but they decide they aren't really ready to take that risk because the entire ziggurat could come down on top of them because we've seen it's very stable, you know.
Mhm.
Um, Daniel finally finishes translating the walls in the sarcophagus room, and it turns out this is the most fucked up story I've ever heard. I think this is why it's
This is
not.
this part why.
Yeah. So apparently the priests were so sick of Marduk's shit that they trapped him in the sarcophagus with a creature. And the creature ate at him. And the creature, but the sarcophagus basically heals you all the time,
Mhm.
constantly. Who's trapped in the sarcophagus, constantly getting healed and then constantly getting eaten. It's just like a nasty, vicious cycle until the creature can eat faster than the sarcophagus can heal. That is the most fucked up thing I've ever heard.
Well, and he only stopped, like he only ate him fast enough because the sarcophagus broke or whatever, right? Like,
Well, we don't know. We don't know when this happened.
like Jack said, he was like, I think that is the worst way to die. Yes, I
Yeah,
do agree, Jack. That
I would
probably would be
have
the
to
worst
agree.
way to die because you never do.
Yeah. It's like he literally continuously got eaten alive, just forever. For thousands of years, continuously
Oh
eaten
my
alive.
gosh.
Um,
When I'm around too many mosquitoes at once, I think it's the end of times. I can't imagine
but
living for so
basically,
long.
the creature finally, I think the creature must have survived at some point because if the if the Goa'uld hadn't already been inside the creature by the time the Russians got there, it would have just jumped from Marduk right to one of them instead of to the creature, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so basically, all this cycle happened, and the creature was then locked inside the sarcophagus until Krensky and the men got there and let the creature out. So
Mhm.
now they decide that they're going to have to continue searching this place and find where all of the men are, and maybe potentially find the creature. Um, Daniel stays there to finish translating, and the rest pair off to search. So Sam and Tolanov find the cocoon, and something like skitters behind them, and it's really creepy. Um, then Teal'c and Zukov are together, and they find the remains of Britsky, and they find and all the other men, and they also find Britsky's log with all the information.
Yeah.
So Jack tells them to take it to Daniel, and Teal'c starts to walk away. And while Teal'c is walking away, Zukov steals the eye of Tiamat from one of the dead bodies. Um, Back to Sam and Tolanov, and they hear the bug again, and she and Carter are like looking for it, and then all of a sudden we cut to just like screaming and shooting. It was basically a horror
Yeah, which
movie.
everyone freaks out about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
sorry, I put it on my computer and it started pushing a button.
oh no.
Anyways, no more.
So
I won't
then
shift anything else.
the creature attacked Tolanov, and like there's like pus and bug bites and nasty all over her chest
Immediately,
or her
that was
neck.
really fast
It was
reaction. Like,
real fast venom. Not a fan. Um, and which probably means that truthfully, that is really what the creature did to Marduk, which just makes it even more disgusting. Um, and the rest of the team arrives, and Sam says that she sensed a presence. So the symbiote is still alive inside of the weird spider creature thing. And Telenov is dying because of the venom. So they get her back into the main room, and Daniel has read through the journal, and it says that Kerensky died from the same like venom injection in 2 hours. That's how much time he had. Um, and the other
Five
two
days is
died.
too long now.
Oh yeah, the other two died in a passage collapse, but Britsky took a cyanide pill and killed himself. And Valerin is like all Russian soldiers are given cyanide pills. And I think this is one of the reasons, this is the actual thing that I think is a negative
I
portrayal
wondered
of
if,
the the
yeah.
portrayal of the Russian army as being cold-hearted and like being forced to take cyanide pills rather than like
Yeah.
negotiate. I think that is truthfully what I think is the reason this episode is
So
not on
I
Amazon.
thought it could be that because also like it probably doesn't have a high enough rating to include like death by cyanide pills. Like that feels like it would have like a
Oh, like
PG rating or something, and it's not,
yeah.
and they're not re-rating it. So
Right.
maybe it's something like that. I have no idea. This is wild conjecture again. But that was one of my thoughts was that it was because of something like the cyanide pills, not rated high enough.
Yeah, the only thing that like it actually says online anywhere is that it was removed for decided on by the content owner, which basically means like MGM
Amazon.
or an
Oh, the content
Amazon.
owner. So yeah.
Yeah. Um
Mm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Did it say
interesting.
when it was removed? Like how
Um
long it's not been there?
So I haven't, so the first post I saw about it was a month ago. But at the time, episode 2 was also missing. And episode 2 has been put back, but episode 8
Right.
hasn't. But also during that month, it also got taken off of um Pluto, and like it was like weird, and it was also it's just I don't really ever know um why. And like it was part of the whole like it disappeared and then it didn't and then it disappeared and then it didn't. And some people are saying like
Yeah.
ever. So, but the only episode that for me that is not showing up is episode 8.
Yeah. Well, we watched episode 2, so
Yeah. So,
you know.
um, weird. But I do think that the conversations about the Russian soldiers and the cyanide pills is probably the offensive material from the content owner, especially with everything that's happening with Russia and Ukraine right now. It just feels very
Mhm.
um much a touchy
Yeah, and like
issue.
suicide's also a very touchy issue. Not that
Yeah.
it, hasn't been, but like in the scheme that it's set in here,
Yeah.
like so I could see that.
I mean, and it's weird what people find offensive and what they don't, and like what people deem to be like something we can't talk about because obviously like there's other things about Russia that didn't get taken off, and like so it doesn't I don't
And that's why I
really.
wondered if it was a rating
And
issue.
there's been other episodes that talked about and included suicide that didn't get taken off.
That's true.
So like I
So
don't.
I wonder if it is like a combination. 'Cause, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously there's other shows. I mean, American Horror Story's on TV still, and it's
that
fine.
is
But people know
fine
what they're
is a
getting
word.
into because the
Yeah.
ratings. And so like when you go to
Yeah.
watch a sci-fi show, like X-Files has a higher
Right.
rating going in because it's
Yeah, and I mean,
darker,
and to be
you know?
fair, the show was on Showtime. So it did not necessarily have to
Right.
follow regular TV ratings. But also this episode was available until like 6 months ago or something. So like I don't really know. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know.
Um, but basically, once we get all of the information about everybody's death, Zukov is like, okay, it is time for the C4. We're done. We need to get Tolenyov out. This is too much. Um, Jack is still saying absolutely not. And then Daniel is continuing to peruse the journal, finds the sketch of the Eye of Tiamat, and is like, they found it. So where is it? And everyone starts to act super sus.
Yeah.
So while off on bug search, Teal'c and Sam find some blood traces. Um, and so Teal'c and Sam are off searching together, and Jack and Zukov are off searching together. Daniel is obviously still translating, and Valoran is staying with Tolanov because she's obviously not able to go anywhere. So Sam and Teal'c find some blood. Back in the sarcophagus room, though, we hear the skittering again, and Valoran is like, oh my gosh, I need to go after it. And then the Academy Award for the most ridiculous line of Daniel Jackson saying what every single person in the audience thinks but can't say
Every day.
is Daniel says, oh, good. You go into the dark hallway alone and leave me in the dark room alone.
All bad things.
Yeah,
All bad things.
yeah. And then Jack and Zukov have now decided to just like be completely like word battling about who is military is better, the
They can.
Russians or the US, and who does what, and all. It's just really childish and awful, and they're both wrong and they're both right, and it's insane. And then Teal'c and Sam are, wow, I can't read. They're getting ready to like head back um to the gate room when the creature just falls from the ceiling dead and symbioteless. And they realize if it doesn't have the symbiote would have needed to find a new host.
Mm-hmm.
Which anyone who has ever watched TV before will know who the new host is because only one person was alone. So, I was like, well, I know who the host
Also,
is. I was like, I know who the
the
host is.
guy.
Dan goes, why? Because you've seen it before? I go, well, yes, but also because they
Also,
made it
yeah.
pretty obvious.
Yeah. This guy looks just like the guy from a TV show, and I couldn't find his name earlier. I think I thought he was on Breaking Bad, and then I thought he was one of the like Russian guys on Barry. And then I was like, maybe he was on one of my mafia shows. Because I feel like I remember him painting houses. So I was like, maybe he was on Many Saints of Newark. Cannot find, cannot find him.
The actor who played Valoran,
As the one, yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
I was like,
I
Fuller and Muller.
I honestly, to me, he looked like one of the kids from Friday Night Lights, which is probably not what you're thinking of, nor is it actually him.
Well,
Um,
this is not any of the people I would have thought he was. I went and looked up this guy to make sure it wasn't him.
he no,
Yeah, Valerian.
he was in Final Destination 3.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Line of Fire. He was in Arrow. Um, he was in Blade, the series. Um, yeah, no, pretty much nothing that you would have ever watched because now I've gotten back far enough to the entirely Russian things. So,
Yeah, no. No, I tried to look earlier and got overly frustrated and stopped. But he looks like someone that definitely exists somewhere in a show. And if it comes to me, I will
um,
tell you who it is.
I, so I'll tell you the person I think he looks like if you want to look up this actor and,
Okay.
um, the person I think he looks like was in Friday Night Lights. He was Jesse Plemons.
Yes, that's him. That's what I think he looks like. But
Yes,
he's too young.
he
Jesse Plemons is.
yeah,
So
but he
it's
looks he
not
looks
him.
like what Jesse Plemons looked like in Friday Night Lights when he was a baby, like as
Yes.
Landry.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So we're thinking of the same person.
I've just seen him in something else different, more recent than
Yes.
Friday Night
But
Lights. But
the
yeah.
baby face that he has at the beginning of Friday Night Lights is what this guy looks
hmm
like. Um
Yep.
um okay, so now they're trying to figure out who the host is. And so like Sam and Teal'c are kind of automatically in the clear because Teal'c can't be a host and Sam is with him and also
Right.
has the ability to sense gold. So like um so Jack and Zukov are like at a stalemate over one of them potentially being the Goa'uld, despite the fact that they've been together the whole time.
The
Like
whole
that is the
time.
thing that
hmm
pissed me off the most is like they were literally looking at each other the entire time.
Yes.
How would have happened? Like I understand them both being angry. I understand them both being on guard. What? When would this have happened? You have not
Not a
left each
chance.
other's sight since you got there, except for like the short period of time where Zukov was with Teal'c, and Teal'c would have told you already.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, okay. Um, Valoran, who is in fact now Marduk, opens the hiding spot in the wall where the hand devices are.
Yeah.
Great. Sam and Teal'c arrive back in the main room and find Daniel. They verify that he is still Daniel. And he's translated the text some more and
That
discovers
was so funny though. He like went to tell them something and they both just like pull guns on him. They're like, "Who are you? What is this?" And he was like, "What is happening?" He's like, "I
he was
don't
like
know."
he was like, I didn't even know what was going on. I'm just
Yeah.
here reading a book, being Daniel.
Yeah.
Um, but he has discovered that there may or may not be a ring transporter in the room. So congratulations, they have a way out. Um, Valoran finds the kernels and just like immediately reveals himself. And he's like, I want the eye. And Zukov's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, yes, you do, because I know you, because I've been in your mind. I'm one of you. I have all of Valoran's memories. You have the eye. We'd go quick flash to Sam, Daniel, and Teal'c, who have in fact found the rings and are trying to get ready. But they also
Mhm.
don't really want to tell the others that they found the rings because they still don't know who is the Goa'uld.
Right.
Valoran says that he's going to kill Jack, so Zukov will give him the air, and if Zukov doesn't give him the eye. And Zukov, because he's not actually an asshole, is like, no, like I will give it to you. Don't kill him. I will give it to you.
Uh-huh.
But instead, he throws a grenade at him. Unfortunately, the explosion causes the entire building to shake, and now everyone's life is in danger. Um, and Jack radios to Sam. Sam tells him what she found, and he's like, okay, I'll be right there. He he tries, they don't show this on camera, but I do believe he like tried to get Zukov out of the rubble before he came. I think that's what took
Yeah.
him so long. But Zukov had not made it. He died. And so they laid a C4 trap for Valerian just in case the grenade was not enough to kill him because, go old. Um, and then they ring out of there. And back at base, Tolanov confirms the story the way Jack told it. And so the Russian colonel who is there, whose name is never said in this episode, but his name is Colonel Chekhov, he and Jack have some words. Um, and
Fussy.
they're very, very not getting along, but there is a lovely bit of foreshadowing that we are not done with Russia.
I mean,
Yeah,
sure.
sure. Right. Are we ever done with Russia?
No.
I have, like I said, an absolute boatload of trivia. But before I give that to you, do you have any thoughts, theories, predictions, other than the ones we've already gone into great length
Um,
about?
well, I did think at first that the arachnid-esque creatures were the replicators when they
Mm,
first like climbed
totally
out.
valid.
Um, because all I saw was the leg.
Yeah.
They clearly were not, which
I
is
do think that they look like if
unsettling.
Jar Jar Binks had a baby with a spider, which makes them the most fucking disgusting looking things I've ever seen.
Oh no, that's unsettling.
Yeah.
I don't care for that. Um, yeah, so I don't know what's happening there. I hope we never see them again. I feel like we have to know what they were at least. Like somebody's gonna tell us. I'd like to have answers, but I don't want to do it by seeing them again. Um,
Valid.
um, Russia's Russia. That's fine. That'll happen again.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of death. A lot of death this episode. Like I know
Yeah.
we've had like major shootouts, but this feels like the most
This
death where
is
we
like
like talk to all the characters, you
right,
know?
like this is not yeah, this is like hey, we are gonna introduce you to people, give you feelings about them, and then like
Immediately kill them.
kill them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because who
Sorry,
just
I'm looking
was it
up just
the woman that made it out? She was the only one that made it out. I totally forget the
yeah.
name now. But she was the
Yeah.
only one, yeah.
Tolenev.
Yeah.
This carnivorous creature that looks like Jar Jar Binks' baby will
Hmm.
does not have a name and it will never be on the show again. So
How dare they? That was so unnecessary. That's why I was removed. They were like, people are gonna be really pissed off if
yeah,
we bring this creepy little creature on here, terrify them, and then don't give them any other information. So now no one can see this episode ever again.
fair.
I get it. I get it. Yeah, I think that's all my thoughts. So thoughts,
Okay.
feelings, etc.
So a couple things. One, there is one moment in this episode where instead of saying Babylonian, Daniel says Babylon. And I read that before I watched the episode, and I was like, I probably won't even notice it. Oh, I fucking noticed it. He said it so blatantly incorrectly and then just like continue talking like he didn't just like fuck up a word. And I hated it.
Hmm.
Um, also, the I complained about this toward the beginning of the episode, but the Russian uniforms, the patch on the side, it looks like it says 3B or something like that. It's because they used a very Roman script for Russian letters. It actually is a Z and a V in the Cyrillic alphabet, because it says Zavoizhne Vrata Odin. So like ZV1, which is the direct translation of Stargate 1.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So Zavoizhne Vorada is star and gate in
I like
Russian.
it.
Um the the other Russian language thing is that anytime one of the American soldiers talks about the female soldier, they call her Tolanov because that is the name and that's what's like written on her uniform. But in Russia, your last name actually tells your gender. So no woman can have a last name that ends in a consonant. So that's why whenever Zukov is talking about her, he calls her Tolanieva because that would be a feminine last name. Tolanov would be a masculine last name.
Another language does that.
I believe you.
I don't know which one.
I know for a fact it's Russian. I don't my guess would be that it would be something else that is similar in the like Cyrillic, like Eastern
Hmm.
European type language base, but I don't know. I know Russian.
It's like a Celtic or like Irish or something.
Interesting. It,
I don't know.
Don't know
I'm
enough
just
about
guessing. I've
that.
heard of this. I can't figure out where I placed it.
Okay. Um, when they show the team photos of Dr. Britsky and Kerensky and the other men who have gone off to look at the Zergat or the ziggurat, the last photo is Peter DeLuise. Um,
Love.
at one point, when they open the sarcophagus and they see that Marduk has died, Jack is like, "Oh well, so much for Marduk," but he doesn't actually say Marduk. He says Murdoch, which
Okay.
is
I thought I heard that.
uh-huh,
And I was like,
which
who is this?
and they play it off as Jack just like doesn't know what he's talking about, except that actually it's an Easter egg because Murdoch is the most recurring villain in MacGyver.
Oh, I thought it was off of
He's
the
like the
mystery,
no,
the
he's like the
Murdoch's
more
Mysteries or whatever.
yes, Murdoch's Mysteries is a great show, but Murdoch is the Moriarty to MacGyver's Sherlock Holmes. Yeah.
That's so cute. I love that.
Um speaking of Jack, the everyone like there was a quote in last week's episode about how Jack is not as dumb as he pretends to be. And this
Hmm.
episode like very distinctly proves that because despite him like mispronouncing like gold names and things like that and like saying stupid things all the time, he knows every single Russian member's name, their military codes and their weapons and where their weapons are manufactured, which is he is
Yeah.
because like he's not stupid.
Right.
Um, also, the facts that he said about the Russian gun being made in Yugoslavia are 100% correct. Um, things that are not correct, though, with the Russian uniforms, all of the dead Russians, actually, and the living Russians, they're all wearing American style dog tags. Those don't exist in anyone else's military uniforms.
That makes
Um,
sense. That makes sense.
and Colonel Chekhov's collar in his dress uniform at the end had Soviet lapels, which have not been on Russian military uniforms since 1992.
Mm,
Um, so there was a lot of
yeah.
trivia in this episode, and a lot of it was because it was like, here are some things that they did really correctly about Russian culture, and here are some things that they did really
Really
incorrectly
wrong.
about
Yeah.
Russian culture. So, yeah. Um, with that boatload of
Hmm.
trivia there, who do you want to punch?
You know, this week, I'm gonna punch Jack. Because my God,
Yeah,
like, I get it. I get you are normally in charge. And I get that you don't want to partner with the Russians. I hear what you're saying. But Hammond says you have to do this, and now you have to do this. And if you don't get along, everyone dies.
right.
And what happened? Everyone died.
Yeah,
So maybe you should just learn to get along for like 5 minutes.
yeah. I am going to punch. I don't know why the whole time we were talking about punching Jack, I was thinking about who my MVP was, which is not the question I needed to be
The
thinking
wrong.
about.
Yes.
I would like to punch Valoran
Hmm.
because well, I understand that his actions at the end of the episode were due to the fact that he was now inhabited by a Goa'uld. His walking alone into the hallway while his teammate, who he clearly really cared about, was dying because he thought it would be a good idea to be alone with a flesh-eating creature. You can't blame that one on the symbiote, and so
No.
for that alone, suck.
Fair. Fair.
Who is your MVP?
Um, this one was a little bit tougher, but I
Yeah,
think I'm gonna go with Daniel Jackson because he just brought a little bit of levity to it. Like,
he did.
I felt like he just said insane things, and they weren't insane in general, but
Yeah,
like it's like everything is so intense, and you go to Daniel Jackson, he's like, I'm reading a storybook. It's like
Yep.
not the time or place. I get that
But
you're trying to help, and this probably does help, but
but
this just feels really out of place right now with
yeah.
everyone dying.
My MVP is not a person,
Mm,
but it is. My MVP is going to be Sam's superpowers for actually working this episode because sometimes they don't.
right.
And if Sam hadn't had her spidey senses, we wouldn't have known as early as we did that we were dealing with a Goa'uld. So I guess by proxy that makes
True.
Sam my MVP, but really it's just Sam's spidey senses.
Hmm. No,
So
that's fair.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fair. Hmm.
Well, next week we are attending a funeral.
Oh God. Ugh. Fine.
I won't tell you whose or if it's even that important, but since this season wants to be dark and somber, that's the note we're gonna carry on with.
I'm gonna hope that this is not my prediction of him and leaving the show this season coming true. So
That would be a really weird time for that to happen.
yeah, because it's
Just
not really like mid-season finale or like
no,
finale. It's just like a random episode.
no.
Oh my gosh, if
So
it's Braytac, I'm also gonna be upset because he's gotta die eventually. He's old. So
so I will tell you that in terms of just like the format of the season and like when things are, the we don't have when does our mid-season break will happen after our um 200th episode extravaganza. No, 100th episode extravaganza.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, it means you know how shows, whenever they make it to like 100 episodes, they do something
Right.
insane.
Hmm.
Um, we
That's this
have,
season? What
yeah,
year are we? I don't know what's
yeah.
happening anymore.
Well, you think about it, there's 22 episodes per season, and there's been 4 seasons, so that's 88 episodes. And 100 minus 88 is less than 22. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so our 100th episode extravaganza is this season and is our mid-season break. So
Nice.
um that one is a journey. But we're not quite there yet. So
Okay, I'm ready. I'm
if
gonna mentally prepare myself.
if you would like to make predictions about the funeral we're going to next week, or who may or may not be leaving this show this season, um, you may email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And with that, we will see you for a very gory episode of Thriller Thursday.
See ya.